He called out for help. He begged for breath. And the world stopped to watch. This is the story of George Perry Floyd Jr., a 46-year-old black man from Houston, Texas, whose final moments in Minneapolis would shake the conscience of the world. On May 25, 2020, George Floyd walked into a small store, Cup Foods, on the corner of 38th Street and Chicago Avenue. He had just finished his shift as a security guard at a local restaurant. He laughed with the clerk, picked up a pack of cigarettes, and handed over a $20 bill. Minutes later, the cashier suspected the bill was counterfeit and called the police. It was an ordinary evening, until it was. At 8:08 p.m., Minneapolis police officers Thomas Lane and J. Alexander Kueng arrived at the store. They found George Floyd sitting in a car with two friends. Lane tapped on the window, asking him to show his hands. The encounter was tense from the start. Within minutes, the officers pulled him out of the vehicle and handcuffed him. George told them he was claustrophobic. He said he couldn't get into the squad car. He said he couldn't breathe. Then Officer Derek Chauvin arrived with Officer Tuthau. And everything changed. At 8:19 p.m., George Floyd was placed face down on the pavement. Officer Chauvin pressed his knee into George's neck. Officer Kueng held his back. Officer Lane held his legs. Officer Thau faced the growing crowd, keeping them back. For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the world would later replay that moment over and over again. The crowd pleaded. A teenage girl, Darnella Frazier, began recording with her phone. Her video would later go viral across the globe. George Floyd gasped, "I can't breathe." He said it again, and again, more than 20 times. He called out for his mother. He called out to God. He begged for his life. The bystanders shouted at the officers to check his pulse. They warned them that he was no longer moving, but Chauvin didn't lift his knee. The officers didn't roll George over. At 8:27 p.m., after nearly 9 minutes of restraint, George Floyd lay motionless. Paramedics arrived. His pulse was gone. He was pronounced dead at the Hennepin County Medical Center. The world didn't just see another death. It saw a murder. And it was all caught on camera. That video spread like wildfire, first in Minneapolis, then across America, and then across the entire planet. The words "I can't breathe" became a global cry for justice. Protests erupted in all 50 U.S. states and more than 60 countries. Millions marched. Cities lit up with signs, chants, and fists raised in the air. The Black Lives Matter movement gained unstoppable momentum. For the first time in history, the world came together to say, enough is enough. The following week, Derek Chauvin was charged with second-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The other officers, Kueng, Lane, and Thau, were charged with aiding and abetting. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner ruled George Floyd's death a homicide, citing cardiopulmonary arrest, due to law enforcement restraint, neck compression, and positional asphyxia. Independent experts confirmed the same. In April 2021, nearly a year later, millions around the world tuned in to watch the verdict live. The courtroom was silent. The world held its breath. The jury found Derek Chauvin guilty on all counts. Second-degree murder, second-degree manslaughter. He was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison. The other officers were later convicted or pled guilty in federal and state trials for violating George Floyd's civil rights. Justice was served, but the pain remained. George Floyd's name became a symbol, not just of injustice, but of change. His death sparked one of the largest movements in modern history. It led to police reform bills, corporate accountability, and a conversation that crossed color, culture, and continents. But beyond the headlines, George was a man, a father, a son, a brother, a friend. He loved music, sports, and mentoring kids at his church. He dreamed of building a better life in Minnesota. He was known by his friends as Big Floyd, gentle, kind, and humble. On that day in May, he became a martyr in a battle he never chose. His family later received a $27 million settlement from the city of Minneapolis, one of the largest in U.S. history.